conversation about the top 10 most motivated sellers. Some of you on the Match Me, I was able to jump in your room and talk with you, and we're already getting answers on Slido. So if you're watching on Connect, again, go to Slido and make your list. Mario, I love you, buddy.
All right, guys. So I just turned on the recording. I want to first start by just acknowledging you guys for being on this call. This is the first step in being proactive in having whatever comes out of this super uncertain time be an opportunity for you. And, you know, if you were on Gary Keller's call at the beginning of the week, you know, the number one thing I really got from that is that the early adopters are the ones that will always and do always come out of it the strongest. If you can be proactive and not reactive, you can turn this into an opportunity that you not only survive, but you then thrive. And we're going to start to talk a little bit about that today. So I first just wanted to hear from you guys, you know, what are you concerned about right now? What are you worried about right now? What's coming up for you?
I'll go first. I mean, I'm just really, it's more personal than business, I think. You know,
but all that matters. So what's coming up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, trying to keep the kids busy.
Yep.
Really. And that I have to cook, you know.
Yep.
I'm just saying. But other than that, I think I have plenty to do. I mean, I'm really grateful for all the things that Brandon's showing me about Command that I've been kind of skipping over because I've been ripping and running. I kind of discovered a few things that are really going to be useful going forward to kind of fill in the time and stack chips while, you know, this thing blows over.
Right. And this is also I mean, that's so perfect what you're saying, Heather, because what's been the number one barrier for most of the agents, especially the productive ones, to adopting the tech, right? Which we've been talking about for the last year, time. Yeah. You know, as you guys are running around doing appointments, you know, pulling comps, lead gen, you know, transaction management out in the field, you haven't had time. What does everybody have an abundance of right now? Time. So if you can use this opportunity to actually deal with your database, if you're not running a database with a CRM, you know, or you're paying for a CRM. And one of the things we're going to talk about is aggressively looking at cutting costs and looking at what are the things that your technology fee that you pay every month, what is already included in that fee that you get for free with the brokerage that you might be paying for someplace else. And your go-to person for that and looking at that is going to be Brandon. And, you know, over the next, actually the rest of this week, you know, Trish and I are going to be reaching out to each and every one of you to set up the opportunity to have that conversation. Some of you have already had it. Some of you are going to need to have it, but everybody should be on those webinars, which he's doing like 3 days a week, just to start to you know, and he's doing it step by step. Like, what are the most critical things that you want to start with? Okay, let's get our contacts in and let's set up a smart plan, right? And then the next step is going to be to use, you know, Facebook to start generating leads. That is what we are going to double down on. We're going to get a little bit more into that as we move on in the call. But, you know, y'all have an abundance of time and we want to spend a significant chunk of it on lead gen. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Who else is willing to share? What are you guys dealing with? What's coming up? Gary. Oh, you got to unmute yourself, Gary.
I had no audio up until a minute ago, so I'm just getting into what you're saying. I've been busy. I've been on the phone negotiating deals.
Great.
Spent 3 hours today. So I'm busy. So, you know, probably not taking as much time as I would under ordinary circumstances, but I'm spending several hours a day on deals and on lead gen.
Good. Good. And, you know, is there anything that is showing up for you that you have a concern about, that your attention's on, that you're worried about with what's happening right now?
I mean, I've been concerned about, I've got a transaction where I'm selling 2 Wendy's and My concern was, is this deal going to fall apart because of what's going on?
Yep.
And we had a conference call today with the buyer and the seller on the phone, and it looks like the deal's going to happen. So
Good.
that concern is a lot less right now than it was yesterday.
Good. But I think you're speaking to something that a lot of people are concerned about, right? Like, is my pipeline gonna, those deals that I have in my pipeline, are they gonna close? Are they in trouble? What am I gonna do about that, right? I think that's a really valid concern that you bring up. I'm sure there are gonna be people who are either watching this or gonna watch the recording that have the same concern. What do you see? Because I see it, but I want to hear you say it. What do you see was the critical action in that, right? You had a concern, and then what did you do?
Well, I got the seller was getting concerned about the buyer, so we arranged a conference call, and I had them on the phone together, and they asked each other the critical questions that they each wanted to know about the other side. Mm-hmm. And everybody came away satisfied. And so the deal is going to move forward.
See, but that's perfect. I mean, and look, for all of you, that might not be appropriate to get the buyer and the seller on the phone, but the critical piece, which is, the important part of what Gary's sharing right now, is that he took an action. He didn't like sit on his hands and worry about it. It was like, okay, what do I need to do? What's going to make the difference to move the ball down the field, right? 1 yard at a time. So for his deal, that was getting them on the phone so they could get their questions asked. For other of you, it might be actually just coming from curiosity, getting on the phone with your clients, listening to what their concerns are. Some people, they just want to, they need to say it, and you need to just tell them, okay, I understand, and here's what we're going to do about that. Maybe you need to ask a question. Maybe you need to, sit with them, create an action plan. But the critical piece is doing something, right, to keep these deals in play. So really, really good. I want to see if there's one more person who wants to share about what they're, dealing with right now, what they're worried about. And then we're going to kind of dive into what I think is going to really make the difference for all of us, and set the foundation for the next 12 sessions.
I'll go. For me, obviously Heather keeps me really busy, but just a lot of the conversations that I'm having with my own lead generation, following up with my circle of influence, I'm running into a lot of people that just feel uncertain about what the next couple of weeks are going to bring. And so that makes them automatically want to pause on some of the goals they had prior to the last 2 weeks. So just overcoming some of those objections and things like that. That's I'll say the number one thing I'm dealing with. Outside of that, still kind of busy. Just opened the escrow. I'm closing one hopefully in the next 2 days. So
congratulations. Amazing.
Yeah. But that's the concerns that I'm having. It's just, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, what is the narrative going to be that I'm telling my potential clients?
Yeah, really good what you're saying, Rossone. And actually, after this call, I'm going to send out a series. It's 5 different scripts that talk to exactly that. What you can say to sellers, what you can say to buyers, and it's got different scenarios, and then walks through some of the points that you can touch on in those conversations. And as we move through, I'm going to send that immediately, but there is a point in the series where we're going to talk about that, and we're going to do some role play and things like that, so that you aren't testing this out on your clients. And I encourage you, if you're somebody that needs to have that conversation now, when I send you the script, call me, call Trish, call Brandon, call a friend, run it through. You guys, you are going to feel 10 times more confident in having these conversations if the first time you have it isn't with the person you're trying to make the difference with. Okay, so as you do these, I want you to look at it like this is really, and I'm going to go into this piece next, right? That, when we look at these shifts, what's the massive opportunity? Is that as the market contracts, there's going to be, especially in real estate, there's such a low barrier to entry that when the market's strong, there's so many deals going around. That's when everybody's like, oh, I can do this. I'm going to dive in and I'm going to start selling some real estate, right? And it's not that hard. There are people who can just get someone to say yes, stick a sign in the yard, put on the MLS, and wait for the business to come. They don't have very much training. They don't have very much expertise, right? And they're still able to be successful. Well, when the market contracts, that changes. And who in that line in the sand becomes really clear about who's a professional, who's practiced, who's well-trained, and who's not. And that's why we have doubled down on that as a brokerage nationwide, right? You see that Keller Williams International has this robust training calendar that is every 30 minutes information. And then we've done the same, and ours is just super strategic in terms of what we know as, you know, KW Inglewood is going to be really important to have you guys, you know, prosper and thrive as we see things shift. And that is going to be a critical piece of it, is as, you know, things change, so does what we do. We can't do what we always did. We have to do what's going to make the difference in the market that's coming. So that doesn't mean we wait for the shift to happen and then make changes. No, we pretend it's already happened and we change now. Make sense? So, you know, I love, you know, Gary Keller and just the way that he shares aspects of his life in his teaching, his training, his books. So the way that the foreword of the Shift book starts is there's, you know, he talks about a couple different things, but there's a section and it's titled Living to the Right of Middle. And he talks about having a conversation with his son. His son's like I think he says a junior in high school. And he says, okay, John, I want you to do this. And John says, well, I don't want to do that. And, you know, Gary's inclination was to say, well, I didn't ask you what you wanted to do. I told you what to do. Right. But he instead used it as a teaching moment. And he described what he calls living to the right of middle. So if you were to take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and on the far left was complete failure, and on the far right was like ultimate success. You know, he talks about how most people really live right there in the middle. And why do they? He calls that average, is that most people live their lives professionally, personally, really being run by and making decisions based on whether or not they want to do something. And the road to average is paved with I don't want to's. And what he talks about is every single time you confront what needs to be done, distinct from what you want to do, you move one step closer to ultimate success from average. Why am I starting our conversation with that? Because we are going to have to change what we've been doing. A lot of you have had a lot of success doing certain things, and those things are not going to be what will have you be successful in this shift. And you guys aren't going to want to do a lot of it. You're not going to want to do a lot of it. And why am I starting this conversation with what has people be average? Because who is going to wash out first? Which agents are going to wash out first when the market shifts? Who knows? You got to mute yourself. Who's going to wash out first?
The average agents.
Correct. They will be gone first. First mediocre, okay? First mediocre, next average, right? And for some people in a thriving market, what it takes to be average, you can make money. Some people are making great money, or were making great money being average. You know, you looked at their activities day to day, that mostly what they want to do, a little of what they don't want to do, most of the time being dictated by what they do and don't want to do, not what needs to be done. How do we know that? Evidenced by who's on this call today. We have 100 agents in the market center. There's 15 of us on this call, right? There were people who wanted to do something else, but what needed to happen is them being on a call about what is going to have them succeed when this market changes. And we know that it will. Really rapidly, actually. A lot faster than when we were at Family Reunion and Gary, you know, Keller was talking about that a shift was coming. It's happened overnight. It's now here, right? So you surviving, and not just surviving, but thriving in this market shift is going to require a lot of confronting, I don't want to. And how do you do that? Is you really stay connected to, number one, from the Red Book, your big why, and what you need to do. So I'm going to read a couple of quotes that I underlined in this book that I just love. You know, number one, the measure of your success in life is in direct proportion to what you're willing to do when you don't want to do it. You know, I know I share about my kid a lot, but she's got this. I sent it to my sister this morning. She's got this. She drew it herself, but it's a quote, and it hangs in her bedroom by her bed. And it says, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't." Is it backwards, or can you guys see that?
No,
right?
that's fine.
And that's going to be our mantra, you guys. You can take down all the market share in Inglewood right now if you're willing to do what everybody else isn't willing to do right now. Do you guys get that? You can. Now, I want you to be clear. It's not going to look how it used to look. So it used to be when you're like, oh, I'm capturing all this market share. It would be like, oh, I did, you know, 10 million one year and then 20 million the next year. We're going to really have to shift that conversation. And we're going to, instead of tracking volume, we're going to need to start tracking units. Why? Because we're going to see a shift in the prices. We might even start to see a shift in the commissions, especially if we go into an REO market. Right? So what everybody's going to want to start concentrating on is units. Now, what is the pathway to attacking those numbers? Who knows? What's the pathway?
Not sure what you mean.
Well, what's the pathway? So if you want to start impacting your units, what do you have to focus on to do that?
Oh, I thought you meant units as in like multifamily. We have to start.
No. The number of units,
volume.
right? Volume
Okay.
versus units.
Gotcha. I don't know.
Appointments.
Yeah, lead generation.
Appointments.
Ah,
Appointments. Okay. So, you know, we're now in the era of extra effort, you guys. A lot of you did great last year because your phone rang. I'm not saying it's not going to stop ringing, but whatever you did last year to get it to ring, we're going to double down on that right now. And we're going to probably add at least one thing that you weren't doing last year. Now, what have we as a market center really committed to in causing that? Technology. That's why I said at the beginning of the call that Brandon and Trish are going to be reaching out to you so that you can really dig in and double down on, number one, your database, and number two, the tech that we offer, because it will streamline that process for you and do some of the work for you along the way. Is everybody clear about that?
Yes.
mm-hmm.
So, you know, he like ends the forward of, Gary Keller ends the forward of shift. And he says, a shift becomes the era of opportunity for those who are willing to do what others won't. There is no escaping this certainty. There's only dealing with it. In a shift, the effort that got you where you are isn't going to keep you there. If you just came from the era of average effort, then most likely you noticed that getting by effort returned getting by results. Average effort meant you get to keep your job. In the era of extra effort, average effort could very well cost you your job. So what are they saying there? And this isn't designed to like freak anybody out, right? But it's because right now we're still fine, right? We just started the call with it. People have deals, don't they?
Yep.
And what I'm advocating for you guys is not waiting until we don't have deals to make a change. I'm advocating for acting like we have no deals right now and doing what we would do if that were the case today.
Okay.
What are you guys hearing in what I'm saying?
Don't wait.
Yeah.
Right.
Now's the time to ramp up as if, you know, we didn't have anything. The same way you would respond in that situation, we need to be responding now.
Exactly. I want you guys to wake up every day like you don't have deals in escrow. Guess what? If you wake up today while you have deals in escrow, like you have no deals in escrow, do you think you'll continue to have deals in escrow?
No.
Well, no, I'm saying if you wake up today and act like you don't have anything versus resting on the laurels that you do you think you'll be able to keep that trajectory going as the market shifts?
No.
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying you are. You are.
No, I get it. Yes, you're right.
Some of you are like, oh, I'm fine. You know, I'm just going to keep going how I'm going. No. That is the pitfall. right? That's the pitfall. And what am I talking about when we say, you know, and this is what we're going to talk about for the next 12 weeks. I'm just managing time. So we are going to go back to basics, you guys. So for the new people, this is where we're going to start working on having some mastery around the basics of what it takes to sell real estate, right? On the buy side and on the list side. And we're going to go back to the basics on how to be effective at lead gen and moving people through the lead pipeline from, you know, a contact to a lead certified prospect to an appointment, you know, to a signed seller agreement or a signed buyer's agreement. Okay. Now, how do you think you're going to become masterful at that?
Training.
Whoever's on mute, I can't hear you. How are you going to become masterful at those, at that process?
Practice.
Correct.
Role playing.
Correct. Not only role playing, yes, role playing is a part of it, but you know what some people sometimes try to do? Spend all their time getting ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting ready. Oh, I just need to get on this webinar. I just need to. No, I'm advocating for doing both. So what that's going to look like is it's going to be time blocking. You know, we're going to do, you know, 2 trainings a day, 2 hours a day, and then we're going to double down on our lead gen. How many hours do you think Gary Keller says we're going to start spending on lead gen? Or how many hours do you think we spend on lead gen in a shifting market? How many hours?
I have 15 hours a week.
No, per day. How many per day?
Per day, 3.
Anybody else? What else do you guys think?
4.
4.
4.
Now, if you're an established agent, Heather, Gary, right? Lanisha, 4. If you're somebody who's new, less than 3 years in the business, do you think you should spend more time or less time?
More.
More time.
More time.
Yeah, because do you all have more time if you're like less than 5 years in the business? Do you all have more time? What are you doing? Nothing. You lead gen.
Hey, listen, I'm doing
That's
plenty, but I get you. Yes.
That's right. But 4 hours, 4 hours.
Understood.
Okay? 4 hours. So, you know, what's going to matter the most is we're going to actually look at the 6 competencies that are at the core of what we do as real estate professionals. I'm going to go through them. So 1, we lead generate, capture, and convert leads to appointments. 2, we present to potential buyers and sellers to get representation agreements signed. 3, we show our buyers and market our sellers. 4, we write and negotiate purchase contracts. 5, we coordinate our resulting sales to closing, right? Transaction management, push it through the pipeline. And 6, we manage all of the money that flows through our business. So one of the things we're going to put our attention on, the 2 things are number 1 and number 6, which is going to be generate, capture, and convert leads and manage the flow of money through our business. So that's going to be, both of those things are going to happen through command. Why am I saying that those 2 things are going to happen through command? And that's why Brandon and Trish are going to be just like hammering you guys about getting that set up. Who knows why? Anybody?
Because it has everything that we need, you know, to work with. And, you know, you guys want us to be more familiar with that and transitioning since we have time.
Correct. And how does command connect to you guys managing the flow of money through your business? What is it going to allow you to do once that's set up?
Have more time to do other things.
Well, not only that, but for people who've got established businesses, you all are going to start slashing expenses. There are things that you right now pay a monthly fee for that you can do for free in command. And we're going to show you how to do it.
Luckily, all of us new people don't have any of those things. So it's like,
right. But that's where now it's going to be part of your lead gen, right? Like you're not doing a newsletter. You got to do a newsletter, right? You're not doing, you know, any sort of letter, email campaign. You got to start doing that. If you're not doing that, you've got to start doing, you know, Facebook lead gen. You know, Brandon's setting people up with as little as 25 to 50 a week, all the way up to, you know, 50 and more, right? And then you're going to every day, part of your lead gen is going to be, you know, touching, if you're new, you're going to spend part of your day touching your sphere, right? Then you're going to spend part of your day following up with your, you know, Facebook leads, right? Then you're going to spend part of your day looking at and getting into command, identifying neighborhoods. I mean, Brandon and Trish are going to walk you through these tasks, but all of those are going to be branches from the tree called lead gen, right? If you're somebody who's established in business, you're going to be reaching out to your past clients, asking them how they're doing, making sure they're okay, letting them know that you're here if anything changes. There are going to be people that are going to get laid off, you guys.
Yeah.
There are going to be people that are going to need to cash out, that are going to need, that have, rental units that are vacant, and they are not going to be able to pay that mortgage for the next 2 months while you find a tenant, or they're going to need to find a tenant tomorrow, or they're going to need to move into that one and sell the one they're living in now. There's just a slew of things that are going to come up for people through the summer as a result of what's happening right now. And this is why we're saying you got to double down on talking to those guys. Gary, there are going to be people who are going to have a situation where they were planning to refi because their 5-year mortgage is up and they no longer qualify for it based on the conditions in that property now.
Yeah, that's right.
And they are going to need to sell to opportunistic buyers. Right? Like we've got to call those people. So that's what we're going to start spending 4 hours a day doing. And then we're going to use this time on these calls every Tuesday and every Thursday, mastering those conversations, mastering what the activities are, and having you guys show up in Inglewood as the most trained, the most effective in the 6 pieces of what it is to be a realtor and what it takes to sell a property in our field. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. Also the most visible and the most memorable. I think just being present says a lot. Also the message that we're sending to people is that's going to be huge. So I think maybe that's my concern too, is just learning the new language that we need to speak to, because some people are asking me things or feeling nervous, and I just need to be equipped to tell them what the projection is ahead, what that looks like. I mean, I had an appraisal on my house today because I'm refinancing, and, I wasn't sure if the guy was going to show up because they're not supposed to be doing that right now, but we kept our distance and it still worked.
Yep.
So,
and that's going to be one of the things that I can tell you just on the leadership side of things. That's what I spend my day on is, TL and OP masterminds about, okay, what does it take for us to keep things moving? How do we do that responsibly? What are the opportunities? There are going to be people that have to do a showing. Okay, well, how do we do that and honor the CDC guidelines?
Exactly.
Right. So those are going to be things that you're going to see and hear from us. And, for some of the other things that you're pointing to, Heather, I mean, that's Kevin Sales is going to talk about that, right? Yep. After this call, you're going to hear from Tom Corcoran at the end of the week on the lending side. I mean, if you guys aren't on these calls, it's like crazy town, because these are the people who are directly connected to not just our office, but every office in our community. And they know what's happening with all the deals across the board. So it's a massive resource. And I can tell you, we're probably one of the only shops doing that for our agents. So please, please, please take advantage of it. We spent an enormous amount of time brainstorming and creating all of this. And there's an intention behind every single piece of it. None of what's being provided right now is for just like fun. It's all like part of a bigger design. So that's perfect. What you were saying is taking advantage of all of that. So the next piece of this is, we talked about the Red Book when we did the business planning clinic. You guys created numbers around, how many leads, how many deals it's going to require for you to close your deals, and not close your deals, hit your goals. So while we're no longer going to necessarily pay attention to the GCI goal, we are going to stick with the number of units that we needed to hit to do that. So for a lot of you, I mean, it was anywhere from, 1 to 4 a month, correct? I mean, not you, Gary, because your average sale price is higher, but right? Is that right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to start looking at is what the ratios are going to become to accomplish that. That's what's going to shift. Now, what has to happen for us to understand what those numbers are? Do you guys have to do more lead gen or less lead gen?
Oh, more.
More.
Well, you're talking about volume, right?
Yep. So
About
for
units.
you to have enough, so, you know, it was like, okay, before it was with this amount of conversations, I could get this amount of listings, right? So we now know that there's going to be, you know, a pause that's going to result in a dip. So if you go out and have the same amount of conversations, are you going to be able to find out what that new number is? No, right? You guys got to talk to me because otherwise it's like TV and I don't know if it's landing. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, based on what you're saying, Nicole, the way I see it is, it seems like what you're getting at is we're going to have to do significantly more so that we know what the new conversion ratios are, I guess.
Correct. Correct. So that's where, you know, I know Heather, right? We talk all the time. Yours is like 11 a day. You got to jump that up to 22 and then see what you're getting out of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
And we've got to tailor the conversation to where you're offering out straight out of the gate, okay, that it's going to be a Zoom call, that it's going to be an opportunity for people to get their questions answered, right? Tell me what your concerns are. And then I'm going to go and get that information. And then we're going to have another appointment and I'm going to walk you through what your concerns are. And you're going to be a resource for these people. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
You are going to be a resource. You want them to know that whatever they're worried about, who do they ask? They ask you. And then you're going to go ask the people that you have at your disposal to be able to bring that information back. Clear?
Yeah. So really it's time to study, is because I feel like there's information I don't know. In order
Correct.
for me to be a resource, I got to know what's going on.
Correct.
Which I do, but it changes every day. But I'm yeah.
Which is why we're going to have these calls with our vendors and with the staff weekly.
Mhm.
And as the information comes out and as you guys start to have questions, right? So you guys, if you actually did this, what would happen? You guys would get on the phone today and tomorrow with your clients. And then what do you get to do on Thursday when you speak to Tom Corcoran? What do you get to do on Thursday if you actually do that? You get to ask him, don't you?
We get to
yeah.
probe.
Get that some. Mhm.
You get to ask him, don't you?
Yeah.
You get to come with a list of questions. You get to listen to what he's saying about what's going on. And then you get to either find out in that conversation if what your clients are concerned about got answered. And if it didn't, you get to ask him. And then you get to do your follow-up on Friday or Thursday afternoon, and you get to call everybody and you get to say, you know, hey, Monica, listen, I know that we talked on Tuesday and this was your concern. Here's like what the next thing that we're hearing from the banks, that we're hearing from our lenders. This is what's going on. Here are your options. Here's when we should talk again. Here are 3 different things that we could look at as possible solutions for what your concerns are. And you now get to be that person's like advisor and, you know, the resource. And then when they're ready to do something, who are they going to go to? You guys. And when they're talking to their friends on FaceTime, because everybody's doing, I don't know about you guys, but me and my friends are all doing happy hours once a week on Zoom, right? And people are like, oh my God, girl, I'm so worried about this. And then that person gets to say, well, don't worry about it. I just talked to my realtor, Jay Bennett, and he told me that this is what's going on. And they're really like, oh my God. Yeah. And let me give you his number, right? I mean, this is what we're trying to create.
Hmm.
Who has questions about that?
I think we're laying new seed in the garden right now. So
we are, but I want to make sure that I don't continue on and people are like, wait, I'm lost. So some of you I haven't heard from: Monica, David, Walter, Lance, Lanisha, Success. What are you guys hearing and what I'm saying? Anybody? You got to unmute yourself.
Me, I need to work on my command, which I plan on working with Brandon sometime this week. But some feedback that I got when people were more inquiring more about refining than selling or buying, which is interesting, which I can ask Tom about. I'm just glad we have the training. I don't know about other agents out there, but Keller Williams has been on top of getting information out.
Yep.
Not just on
We're
work,
known
but
for it.
on the side of being people. Like, we know you guys are at home. This is what you can do, you know.
Yep. Yep. And here's the thing that you want to remember is like, yes, there are going to be people that are going to refi right now. And then there are going to be people that, you know, things are going to shift. I promise you, people are going to start refis And then there are going to be people who have shifts in their work situation, and the banks are going to ask before they disperse on those loans. And there are going to be people that thought they were going to be able to refi and they're not going to be able to, and they're going to have to make some hard choices. So even you just being the person that, you know, especially if you use somebody like Tom will make sure they come back to you, right? If he has to give that person the news, okay, look, this isn't going to go the way we thought, and here are some of your options. And any of those include, you know, renting it out and moving to a smaller place, downsizing, whatever. He's going to make sure they come back to you. And when you're that person, if there's business to be had, it will be yours. So being a resource for people it doesn't mean that it means you might get the deal later. That's all, but you still just want it to be you. And it might be that you help that person get the refi done, and then there's somebody else who doesn't need to do a refi, but they need to do something else, and they're going to share that you were the resource, and you're going to get a phone call. Do you see how that works? Right, guys?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So here's the other piece about it that I think is just genius, right? So, you know, the first part of this is that, you know, don't we already have seasons? Don't we already have like the high season, the low season, times where there are more business, less business? We do, don't we? And we don't, do you guys get jacked up about that over Christmas? Like, is there anybody who's like, it's Christmas, there's less deals. Like, I didn't know, what am I going to do? Is there anybody who just like is flabbergasted that there's a certain time of year that there's less deals? Or does everybody know that, right?
Right.
Yeah. And what's there to do if you want to have more business in those times of year? You know, there's a few of you on this call that are busy in the winter. What do you do? Why are you busy? What do you do?
I start planning most of my marketing in October.
And what does that give you when you do that?
It gets me a jump start on the first quarter.
Correct. So would you say that this is the same as that?
Very close. Yeah.
Right. It's not as predictable because most of us know, okay, we're going to be a little slow in the winter, and then we're going to hit March, April, and things are going to pick back up. And we rely on that. This is the only difference here is we don't necessarily know, for sure, it's like a drop dead date that things are going to pick up, but the actions are no different. Does everybody see that?
When I first came in, Keller Williams was in the middle of a 66-day challenge. Is that what it's called?
Yep, 66-day challenge.
Yeah. I thought I should do that in the meantime. Like, I can do my own 66-day while we're in this weird space of real estate.
Yeah, but what you want to connect that to you, and this is really great what you're saying, Monica, is it can become really easy to make this about being on every webinar, you know, just learning every single trick there is to use in Command. That makes no difference if you don't talk to people. So that's the appetizer of right now. That's not the entree. The entree is use those things. Yes. 2 hours a day, right? 3 hours a day max. 4 hours a day, reaching out and talking to people. Because you can know everything under the sun. If you don't have any customers, what difference does it make? Does that make sense, you guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why am I saying all of this is that, as you know, what'll happen is as people start to drop off because there are less and less deals, if you can do nothing else but maintain what you've been doing, units, because there are less deals, can you see how that automatically equals an increase in market share?
Sure.
That if last year, I'm going to just use round numbers, you did 20 deals, and that meant that you had 5% market share, right? And then this year, the deals drop. And because there are less deals, but you still do 20, now you could possibly have 15% market share, right? And the difference that'll make as we come out of it and you move into that gap, because there's going to be a gap, right? Like there's going to be a time where it takes a certain amount of time for the number of deals to actually go down and people to feel that there's something different in the market. And that ramp up is the same. Now, for those of us who do this and execute this well, as the market starts to ramp back up, it's going to take a minute for everybody else who's left the market to see, oh, wow, there's more deals. But for the people who are still there, you're going to experience it and be the leaders of it. Does everybody get what I just said?
Mhm.
Okay, I want someone to recreate it so I know, because it's hard for me to know that everybody got it unless I can hear somebody else say it. So what am I saying here?
You're saying that there's going to be less people working fewer deals, but if you can keep your number of deals the same as before, you're going to be working a higher percentage of available deals.
Right. And then as you come out of it, whereas there were 30 people who were super active in your area, now there's only 10 people super active in your area. And as the deals ramp back up, who is going to be a top agent in Inglewood? You are.
Mm-hmm.
So can you see how this is, people talk about, that there are massive opportunities and shifts. There are people who come out of shifting markets and they're millionaires.
Yeah.
Because it's allowed them to take their unfair share.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want for you guys to do. But can you see how the only way to actually achieve that is to double down on the lead gen?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, let's hear from somebody who hasn't shared yet. What are you guys hearing in this? Walter, Lance, Jay, David, George, Success, Lanisha. Does anybody want to share?
Yeah, my question is, how is the market going to react to this stay-at-home policy for possibly another month? If the prices of the properties are going to go down, number one. Number two, if people are going to have money to buy the houses or properties right after the, let's say 1 month will pass. What do you expect from the market to be like? That's out of curiosity.
Well, I think here's, and this is just my take on it, right? No one's got a crystal ball. No one. This is unprecedented. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But what we do know from looking at down market after down market after down market is there are certain actions that will always produce the result when business goes down. And the number one thing that has people not only survive but thrive in any kind of down market is action. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying to you, George, is nobody knows what's going to happen. We won't know how this is going to affect things until it actually does. But what I can tell you is if you continually take the actions that we're talking about, regardless of how it goes, you're going to be somebody that when there's business to be had, because there always is, it might be less, but there's always some, you will be able to take your share of that. And that's the critical piece of it, is that as it gets really tight, that you have enough to keep you going. And then once it passes and starts to ramp up, you being somebody that was able to maintain a position in the market, it's going to allow you to take a bigger bite out of that next ramp up that has people come out of down markets on top. I always say this, Stephanie Vitaco, who's the #1 agent in our company, became Stephanie Vitaco in the downturn doing REOs. And because she was doing so many REOs and her name was everywhere, once the market came back, everybody knew who she was, and she became the gold standard for who you hire to list your home in the Valley. And 10 years later, she still is.
Good. So if you are the only one player on a court, basically, and you know what you're talking about, you're going to be very successful.
Bingo.
Yes, got it.
You said it perfectly.
Yes.
You said it perfectly. Oh, Mr. Stubbs, there you are.
I'm here.
What are you hearing and what's getting created?
Well, what I'm hearing is that in the shift, a lot of agents, leave me alone.
I love you guys.
In the shift, a lot of agents are going to fall off because it's not as easy as it was when, there were a lot of listings to be had and buyers everywhere. So if you sustain what you're doing, what you did last year during the time when all these other agents are leaving because there is less business, then you will be able to, when you come out, like you said, have a greater market share than, you know, what you had just because you were able to maintain during the shift. So it's like,
Exactly.
if you've taken, you know, 3 steps forward and the shift only knocks you 2 steps back, then, you know, you're able to absorb what happened during the shift.
Exactly.
But if you allow the shift to take you further back than you've already gained, then, you know, you're on your way to being out the business.
Correct. And what I want to make sure everybody's clear about is that while we're trying to maintain what we had before, we cannot do that by doing what we always did. We have to double down on the 2 things that we started the call discussing: lead gen, education. You guys need to be experts. You need to be a resource, and you need to be talking to as many people as you can, twice as many as you were before. Okay. And the people who adapt first are going to do this the most effectively. The people who adapt last are going to struggle to catch up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here's, you know, I'm going to just share with you guys, right? You know, there are going to be, the more and more you talk to people, and this is, you know, I want to make sure I end on time because we've got Kev jumping on after this. And if you guys aren't on that call, you're nuts, okay? Because he's literally going to talk about what we're doing with regards to the stay in place to get shelter in place, excuse me, to get deals closed, and what is going to happen if it becomes more restrictive, meaning the county closes. And you need to know this information because all of you that have deals in escrow, and if this happens in a week or 2 weeks, I don't know if you're watching the news, but our death tolls are ticking up very quickly. It could happen, all right? You want to know what you've got to say to your clients. Okay, and this is what he's going to walk you through. And if you don't have a deal right now, you still got to know this because somebody who wants to do a deal is going to ask you, well, how are we going to do that deal? Everything's closed. You want to know the answers. And that's what the next call is about. Okay, so I'm going to stay super on time because he's going to jump on, I think in like maybe 25 minutes, but I want everybody to have a chance to, you know, jump off, get a drink of water, go to the restroom, do what you need to do so that you can be on with Kevin on time. But what I want to kind of finish the call with is, you know, talking about mindset. So what is freaking everybody out is, I mean, I'll just share from personally, right? Like the more I watch the news and the more I read the paper, the more I'm like, oh my God, we're going to hell in a handbasket. What are we going to do? This is terrible. And then I have to remember, okay, well, yeah, that's what's happening. But that doesn't mean what I'm making it mean. I get to say how it goes, right? You get to say how it goes. Every step of the way, you get to say how it goes. And you want to be that same voice for yourself, for your clients, because there are going to be people who are going to call you guys very freaked out, and they are going to call you with the sky is falling. And you've got to be that person that's like, yeah, no, I know that's what's happening. Yep, I'm clear. And there is always an opportunity in every single one of these things. And I'm going to be your partner in figuring out what that is. And I'm going to be the one to go out and get the information because I've got the relationships in this business to be able to find those. That's why you need to stick close to me. I got your back. Make sense? Okay, cool. So who's got questions about how to do the lead gen? I'm going to send out, as soon as we're off this call, all of those scripts. Is anybody going to read the script and try this script out on their client? No. What are you guys going to do?
I will. I'll give it a shot.
Okay, but first you got to do something first.
I had a meeting.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, but first you got to do what? Before you try it out on somebody who's really a prospect, what do you need to do?
Learn it.
Yes.
You got to try it out with a friend first.
Practice.
You got to role play that bad boy.
Practice.
You got to practice. Practice makes perfect. Everybody who's masterful at anything is masterful because they practice. Now, some of the practice is going to happen, you know, like in simulation mode, right? But the lion's share of the practice is going to happen by actually on the court doing it. So it's kind of like you want to think of it as like preparation and then your practice of it, right? So you're going to prepare, you're going to read the script, You're going to role play with somebody, and then you're going to day in and day out talk to people and discover what really works. Okay. And it can't be a ton of getting ready. You got 2 hours a day to get ready, you guys, and then it's 4 hours. Let's jam. Who else? What else do you guys have questions about? Anybody? No? Okay, so tell me what do you hear you're going to already do differently after this call? How many of you are not doing any lead gen at all right now? No one's going to cough up. Okay, Mr. Thank you, George, for being straight up. Thank you for being straight up.
Lead gen.
Yep. Okay, so what are you going to do about that, Mr. Furman? Oh, you're on mute.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm working on it. The more I talk to people, everybody's scared and they don't know what they're going to do, how the market is going to react. So right now, everybody's waiting for at least clear skies when they'll go back to work. I hear a lot of neighbors say they're not going to pay any mortgages or pay their rent because they don't have any money. They lost income, and they were very happy that they are not going to be evicted. But other than that, everybody is in limbo right now. They don't know what to do, most of the people. And being an unknowing person that I'm just there asking questions, but it's very unclear, very muddy waters at this time in terms of real estate. So I guess I'll be around and I'll be guiding my people, but right now, nothing is going on. Everybody is glued to the TV.
No, and that's fine. But here's what you do, George, is you still stay in touch with them, right? And you still say, listen, right now, yes, it might make sense to hold tight, but I promise you there are going to be opportunities and you want to stay in touch with me so that when they present themselves, you know, and you want to stay in touch with me because all of the relief that we're happening, there's going to come a day where that's going to end. It's not going to last forever. And there are going to be people who need to make changes. Now, they're going to do those changes or make those changes with who's been talking to them. So that could be you or it could be somebody else.
Yes, I understand. I already got one person that told me if the price is going to go down, he is up for buying one of the properties, but
Perfect. So that's where you want to talk to him about. Does he need a mortgage? Yeah. If he does, then you need to get him in touch with Tom, and you want to make sure that you've got those people on smart plans in command. So they're getting emails from you and they're getting, you're getting reminded to call them. Okay. Sure. But that's really good. At least you're in action and you're doing something. Look, if you're somebody who hasn't been doing, consistent lead gen, I'm not asking you to start huge. You're not going to go from 0 to 4 hours a day, but start with 5 or 10 people a day. We're going to be here in a month. In a month, you can work your way up to that. 100%. Sure. Everybody on this call can work their way up to that. One. You're on mute, I think.
Thank you.
I have found that in my lead gen, because everybody's home. Correct. So when we need to call and everybody's like at work or I can't reach you, I'm finding everybody and their mama is at home. So while I'm hanging out, I get up in the morning, make a few phone calls, and I'm doing it. I just went and showed 2 properties. I'm loving this environment. I'm digging this.
There you go.
So many values that's being made right now. You have no idea. Oh my God. So if you're not calling, that's on you.
Yeah, but he's speaking to exactly that. Massive opportunity, you guys. It's just got to go out and take it. So for those people who, who's still got a concern, concerned about, getting on the phone. Now's your chance. Come on. Here's the thing. You guys don't need to call your people and talk business. I think the first and most important call that you can all make to whoever's in your sphere, start there. Look, start there, right? Is number 1, call through your sphere, see how people are doing. Mm-hmm. See how they're doing. Check on them. How is it going? Your kid's driving you nuts. Mine too. Listen, it's going to be fine.
Is it? I don't know.
Or there's toilet paper at Ralph's. I was there yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, that's all it needs to be. to start. That's all it needs to be to start. And then, you know, you just kind of keep it going. Listen, how's everything going on the business front? Look, we don't know what's happening either. I want you to know that as things change, you call me or I'll call you. I'm the person that can talk to you about what this all means. Okay. So I would start there with people, is just calling and just let them know you're there. Let them know you're thinking of them. Say hello. Just tell them that if you need anything, like I'm a resource and I want you to call me, and I've got tons of resources. You need a handyman? I got one of those. You need whatever you need, right? Start there. And then if you are not on command, this is like crazy pants, you guys. Brandon and Trish will help you. Even if you just take your cell phone, get your cell phone contacts in there. You know, call everybody in your phone and let them know. In-state, out-of-state, we've got the largest referral network in the world. Hey, let me put you on, you know, give me your email. I'm going to put you on my newsletter, and it's going to detail what's going on right now, right? And then when you have questions, you call me. No problem. Okay?
So,
go ahead, Gary.
I'm still using ClientLook for my database. I haven't switched over to Command.
Yep.
What is the advantage to me of being on Command rather than ClientLook?
Well, for you, I would use a two-tiered approach. I think that right now it would be as a unique opportunity for you to possibly start using Facebook to generate leads. I don't think for somebody like you, Gary, switching fully over from ClientLook makes sense. They haven't built out the side for commercial yet. Once they do, there's going to be an opportunity to probably connect it, and that's going to be what we'll do. I think what you do with Brandon is just take advantage of a few of the things that will, like, I want to say, what's the word? Hold on. Augment your business and augment your lead gen right now. Okay. So take advantage of that. But for the people who are residential, where there's like newsletters and all kinds of market data that they're going to be able to send their clients out of Command, those guys should 100% be in there. Okay. All right, everybody, can I get a commitment? Who's going to be on the call on Thursday? We're going to dive in.
What's on Thursday?
I'll be there.
So on Thursday, we're going to start going into the 12 tactics. There's 12 tactics that stand on the shoulders of the MREA model, and we're going to start tackling them 1 to 2 at a time. The first few are not as in depth as the later ones. So we're gonna tackle each one, each class in an on the court way. So it's going to be like this. I'm not going to talk at you for an hour or an hour and a half. It's going to be interactive, and I want you to bring your businesses or bring your lives to the conversation so it actually makes a difference. And we're going to talk about what needs to be done. What are you doing? What are you not doing? Bring your numbers. If you're not tracking your lead gen and how many people you called, how many contacts you got, that's a mistake. Let's start doing that. And, you know, the more honest you are about it, the more transparent you are about it, the more you're going to get out of it. If you come on these calls and hide, I mean, it's better than not being on it at all. But the people who really jump on here and have some skin in the game, you're going to see it in their units at the end of this time period. And I'm going to, you know, your results are my results. So I want you to know I'm your full partner. I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you to cause it, but I can't do it for you. So, you know, I am going to make sure that you have everything you need to go and take your unfair share, but you guys are the ones that have to do it. And I'm here with you every step of the way. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll see you all Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
Come on, team. Bye, you guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
How do I get off? I think we stay here.
No.
Let me get off.